welcome back to the Moist Tasman. It's a nice sunny afternoon and a bit breezy too, but we're going to go take a look at the greenhouse because we've got some plants growing in there now and got our planter boxes in, and we're also going to meet the person who's going to be doing the architecture of the inside of it. So let's go take a look. Greenhouse. Let's open up and see who's inside. It's Saskia.
Hello.
Hello. Let's go see what's happening.
Welcome to our greenhouse. The inside of the greenhouse, rather. So, I'll walk you through all the stuff we've got so far. First of all, we needed a workbench because I'm old and fat and I really don't want to have to spend my days bending over to pick up stuff and being down on my knees to do gardening all of the time. So I picked this one up. It's got a shelf and then storage under it. We've got a little bin there that I use a surprising amount for weeds and things. Got a couple of different watering cans, large, medium, and then a small one for my seedlings that I'll show you in a minute. This is pretty much just leftover potting mix that I can use for new pots or new seedlings, things like that. We've got some sugarcane mulch, blood and bone, potash, and all my spare plants, along with some weeding things, and I think there's another couple of buckets, and all my hand tools are in there as well. We've also got another shed behind us that we keep all our bigger stuff, so like bigger shovels, wheelbarrows, all that stuff. Next, we've got what is going to become full-blown tomato bed. So we've got, I think these are San Marzano tomatoes that I planted in a couple of days ago, so they seem to be taking quite well. Randomly we had some potatoes that were going off, so we thought, stuff it, let's chuck them in here and see what happens. And then once these are the little, like, they come to be about yay big sweetie tomatoes, I'll pop those in there. And then at the end of it, I've got some sweet basil. So it will be a nice tomato garden. And then once they've done their run, I'm going to switch them out and make that a cucumber bed. So the plan is, because we're in Tassie and it gets bloody cold in winter, there's certain things that just will not grow here in the middle of winter. So cucumbers, I think, are one of them. They pretty much need a relatively warm climate to grow in, otherwise they'll just die. So once I've done a run of tomatoes, I'll pull all of these up and this will become a permanent cucumber bed. Next, this is an interesting little thing for the nerds amongst you. You know who you are. It's a temperature and humidity measurer. So we've got the other piece of it's in the house. At the moment it's pretty low. It's 26 degrees and 33% humidity. But once I give them all a drink, the humidity will just pump back up. So that's a really good one in the house to go, you know, do I need to come and open a door, let some more air in? Is it too hot? Is it too cold? So we picked that up pretty cheap from shiploads. And it's just really handy for keeping an eye on things. Next, we've got the Epic Growing Shelf. Again, just another find from Bunnings, but it's fantastic for all my little seedlings. So pretty much everything here has been grown from seed. So these radishes I need to pick shortly because they have almost fully grown. We've got Thai basil, we've bok choy, rhubarb, a couple of red capsicums, some lettuce that I used from a dead-headed Coles lettuce, so I don't know how well it's going to do. I've got a country mix, which I'm still not entirely sure what a country mix is, but we're giving it a go. But that'll eventually get transplanted out to a garden bed. I've got a cottage mix, again, remains to be seen. I've got cucumbers, sage, rosemary, a cutting of a daisy that snapped off when we bought it home, so I'm having a crack at growing a cutting. We'll see how that goes. Pickling gherkins, and I've just transplanted from seedling pots some sweet peas. So basically I tend to just move them around whenever I think one's too hot, one's too cold. Usually the brand new babies, depending on what their growing conditions are, I'll start them up the top and then work their way down to keep them off direct sunlight. But generally most of the stuff that I've started up here has done pretty well. I'll show you some stuff that we started here and I've had to now transplant. But yeah, that's pretty much the... Oh yeah, there's also a cauliflower that is starting to come up. So that is the shelving. There's also, I'll get out of your way, a couple of different chili plants down there. They're going mental, they're loving it, they love the humidity. Again, they're a plant that probably wouldn't grow particularly well in Tassie because they do prefer a warmer climate. So we'll probably keep these in here permanently. This is one that kind of surprised me. I didn't think that I would end up having an entire garden bed dedicated to 3 different kinds of beans and zucchinis, but here we are. So we planted these in from seed 3 weeks ago, and I very quickly realised that beans love a greenhouse. So these are just your standard green beans. I've got some zucchini that I've only transplanted in the last 24 hours, so it's still got a bit of transplant shock and is getting used to its new surrounds. And then I've got butter beans and purple kings. So these will eventually grow up over, and we should hopefully have a nice amount of beans to go with our Christmas lunch. So that's pretty much the whole greenhouse. We didn't build the garden beds ourselves. I should put my hand up and say that. We had a guy around the corner make them for us because we just, with both of us working full time, we don't have time to do that on weekends. I want to spend my weekends with my plants, not building stuff all of the time anyway.
So here we have our planter box, and similar to our wine barrels earlier, we'll look to prep it in the same way by covering it in weed mat around the sides and also through the bottom with some added holes for drainage. So that's all done, and we'll also look to fill it in the same way as well. So starting off with some green garden material, and we'll stomp that down to make sure that's all nice and compacted, and then we'll look to put the red dirt that we've had under the greenhouse on top, some kitchen scraps, and also some mouldy bread. What we've done for the top layer is some garden soil, some red dirt, clay dirt, and some blood and bone.
So that is pretty much the greenhouse.
That's awesome. That's the update on where the greenhouse is. But quick question, how do you manage it? What do you do in the morning? Like, run us through what you do.
Okay, so I am the morning person amongst us. He is not a morning person. So I usually wake up around 5:30, 6 o'clock, get up, make my coffee, bring the cat out here with me, and generally I try and keep the workspace pretty clear, so that when I need to use it, it's ready to go. Pretty much, it's actually surprisingly easy. I was a bit worried when we first took on this project that I'd end up spending days and days and days out here for very little reward. I literally come out, have a look at the plants, check if any weeds have grown, give them a bit of a pull out if they have. I've got a giant batch of petunias in there, so I usually deadhead any of the flowers that have died overnight. Most of it is checking for weeds and making sure everybody's happy, and then I give it a good water. So we've got a setting on there called shower, which gives them a really good drink, and then I put the mister on for a couple of minutes and just mist the crap out of the greenhouse.
So that's with like a regular spray nozzle, like on a hose, yeah? Yeah.
And that just, one, it pumps up the humidity that helps kickstart their growth, and it gives them a really good drink for the day because it gets up to, I think the highest temperature I've seen in here is 44 degrees.
Alright, so that would dry the plants out if you didn't water them?
Yeah, so you need to, part of a greenhouse is you do need to keep it moist.
Yeah.
And we do have plans to run irrigation through it so that I don't have to do all of that in the morning.
New video. Nah, yeah, we'll do that later.
It's just logic.
Logic, yeah, that we should do that.
And also so that if I'm away, James doesn't have to run everything by himself. So
Yeah, that's the.
It's literally
Easy.
it's literally a 10-15 minute thing in the morning, and I find it's a really nice way to start the day. You come out, you have a coffee. I talk to my plants because I think it helps them grow, and my beans are proof that it does work.
Yeah, they're
No,
going really well. That's only a couple weeks growth.
no Tasmania has
seed.
not made me that crazy. And yeah, we've also got a whole bunch of herbs and stuff down closer to the house. So I usually go and do a check of like everything, and then water our garden beds, water in the greenhouse, give everyone a bit of love, and it's 15-20 minutes of my morning.
Do you bother when it's raining and stuff?
Yeah, no, I still come out here more just to check that everything's okay. Like, you want to make sure none of the poly panels have blown off, because if it's raining, chances are it's been windy. Make sure none of the little seedling plants have knocked over or anything like that. I like to check it once a day at least.
Okay, another question. I've been super proud of how I've built this. Now, rip the curtains back. Have there been any problems?
Honestly, because of where we live, the biggest problem is the wind. So, this door was not having a fun time just because it bangs open and closed, which is more an annoying aesthetic thing for me than an actual problem. But do you want to walk out and you can show them what you've done there?
Yeah, why not?
Um,
Let's take a look.
so basically he's installed just a little bolt thing that you swing up to open, and it means that I can have only one of the doors open if I want, or if you swing it all the way up, open your door, you've got options. So I love this because it means I don't have to deal with doors swinging anymore.
The other door's open. How's that staying up?
So this one is really simple. It's just a latch that has been screwed into the aluminium and onto the wall, and it's as easy as now you have a fully secured closed greenhouse. There's also a latch on here which
Was going okay for a little bit, but
it was good for keeping it closed, but it was
just wasn't dealing with the wind.
Yeah, it was largely redundant anytime there was light breeze, and because Tasmania, there is almost constantly a light breeze, which is fine for me, but not for this sucker. So yeah, so that's probably the big one for me. I think we had a really big, blowy 40k an hour wind day that has blown one of the panels off the roof. But other than that,
Flooring's good.
flooring's
Not
fantastic.
tripping over anything.
No. I probably would. I would love another garden bed in there, but it's probably not going to fit.
So we needed a bigger greenhouse.
We needed a bigger greenhouse. That's my only problem with it. Is
You're growing too much.
I didn't necessarily calculate how quickly my seedlings would take off. I thought particularly things like your cucumbers would take 5 or 6 weeks just to get to the point that they're at, and they're at a point now where I almost need to transplant them, and I don't have much that I can put them into at this point. So we're working on that.
Okay, so sounds like a success.
Yeah, do you want to show them where you've reinforced some things just to
Yeah, let's go. I'm
help
gonna
us
go walk
out?
around because these little plasticky bits were falling out in the wind. So
which
is sort of half
to be fair, we
expected.
kind of knew that going into it, that a lightweight aluminium frame was always going to be a little challenging in weather.
So I've put in a little bracket to strengthen it up to hold it when it does get a bit windy, because this is the backside, and as we know from the backside, it cops a lot of the wind. Yeah, it cops a lot of it.
Yeah.
So yeah, a little bit of strengthening here and there, but I think
It's helped.
The panels need a little bit of help. I might end up using some strong tape for that, but
Yeah.
that's a work in progress. And for now,
Like you can see up the top there, a couple of these don't necessarily sit flush, but I think that's largely a product of somebody leaving the doors open during the day. The wind flies in, it's got nowhere to go, so it just rolls around and pumps up to try and escape through these vents and then pushes these up. So I don't think that's a critical problem.
It's not super bad problem for now, but if we can get those tightened in, that'd be probably helpful.
Yeah, we should also talk about the landscaping of said greenhouse, because to me this is one very important piece. So we started off, everyone's who's seen the videos knows that this was once a red dirt pit.
Yeah,
dug
I think
out
the last
the
time
trench.
they saw it, it had weed mat just out the front.
Yeah, so there's still weed mat under here, but there was another garden bed that I had dug out, or we had dug out rather, 3 layers of weed mat. Tip, don't use weed mat. It is a bin fire on a bin fire on a bin fire. I cannot stress enough how much I hate weed mat, and anyone who uses it, it is the worst. And the worst thing is, it doesn't stop weeds. I don't care what anybody tells you, the amount of weeds I have pulled out from my garden beds that have 2 layers of weed mat is more than the ones that don't. So it is stupid, and it should burn a fiery pit.
Okay, so was it a good idea to put weed mat under this?
This is different because we're not actually trying to grow anything here. So
okay.
it was more of a, I wanted to try and keep the rocks clean. So there is plastic, you can see on the corner here, that we just haven't chopped out yet. It's more of a plastic mat than a weed mat. So these rocks were buried under a layer of weed mat in the garden bed behind us. So one Sunday we shoveled them all out. Poor James spent about a week
cleaning all the soil off the dirt.
High pressure.
Cleaning the soil off the rocks.
High pressure cleaning them, and then we've shoveled them in here. We had a couple of pavers lying around, so we thought let's make it look a little bit fancy and have a nice step in. We didn't have enough rocks to go all the way around, but what we did have...
But yes, this is all the mulch that was still there from before, and we've picked out some more from where the other garden bed is, as aforementioned.
Yeah, so it's kind of a mix. I actually quite like the contrast, and it gives me the option to potentially use this as a garden bed down the track and plant some perennials or annuals or something in here just to frame the greenhouse a bit nicer.
Make it pretty.
Yeah. But yeah, that's pretty much... The landscaping bit was probably the easiest part of the whole operation. Rocks aside, the putting it down was probably the easiest part.
I think I've got some video of that, I'll show them.
Yeah.
Just about now.
But I think it looks great, and the best part is this was all stuff that we had lying around the house. Like the pavers were already here, the bark was already here. The wood
rocks
was...
just needed cleaning, that's just...
Yeah, the wood was just an offcut that James had lying around, so it's cost us nothing to, other than our time and
the actual greenhouse cost.
Yeah, and potentially some of my sanity when digging up those rocks. But overall, I'm pretty thrilled with it. I spend probably a good 2 hours in it a day just faffing around and figuring out what I'm planting where, and yeah, we've got some really big plans for the rest of the garden, so it's nice to be able to sit in there surrounded by plants and plot them out.
Yeah, not for too long, it gets hot.
Only early in the morning. Early in the morning it's, you know, comparable with outside temperatures, but the middle of the day, it'll come in handy in winter, put it that way.
Very good. It's our greenhouse, and expect some more videos from that, and we'll keep you posted on what's happening next.
Stay moist.
Stay moist, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.